If you have a dispute with the HOA about property records, that's a civil matter. This man isn't trespassing.
Hey, I am talking to you. You can't just walk away from this. I asked you a question.
You need to vacate this property immediately. The woman's voice cut through the October morning like a knife. Marcus Chen froze mid-stroke, paint roller dripping white onto the tarp, and turned to face the stranger marching across his driveway. Platinum highlights. Lululemon perfection. A clipboard gripped like a weapon. "Ma'am, I own this house." That's what they all say. Her smile was surgical. "I'm Deborah Mitchell, HOA compliance officer. This property is listed as foreclosure supervised, which means you're either a squatter or you forged documents. Either way, you have 30 minutes to gather your things before I call the police." Behind her, 3 neighbors had stopped on the sidewalk, phones out, watching. Marcus felt his pulse spike. He'd closed on this house 6 days ago, signed every paper, paid every fee, moved his 12-year-old daughter into the room with the window seat she'd been dreaming about for months. And now this stranger was telling him to leave. "Call them," Marcus said quietly. "I'll wait right here." Deborah's eyes narrowed. She pulled out her phone, fingers already dialing. "Don't say I didn't warn you." 14 minutes felt like 14 hours. Marcus stood on his own driveway, paint roller abandoned on the tarp, surrounded by neighbors who'd materialized like vultures to roadkill. No one spoke to him. They spoke about him, voices low and urgent, phones recording everything. Deborah stood by her SUV, arms crossed, waiting. When the squad cars rolled up, 2 of them, lights flashing, Marcus's stomach dropped. 4 officers for 1 man who'd bought a house. The front door cracked open. Zoe's face appeared, small and terrified. "Dad?" Marcus forced his voice steady. "It's okay, baby. Go back inside. Lock the door." She disappeared, but he knew she was watching through the window. Learning a lesson no 12-year-old should have to learn. That sometimes doing everything right still isn't enough. The older cop approached first, stocky build, graying temples, the careful distance of someone trained to expect danger. His hand hovered near his belt. "Sir, we received a call about a trespassing situation. Do you have identification?" Marcus moved slowly. No sudden movements, hands visible, voice calm. All the rules you learn when you look like him. "I'm Marcus Chen. This is my house. I have my wallet in my back pocket. May I reach for it?" The officer nodded. Marcus pulled out his wallet with 2 fingers, opened it to his driver's license. "The address on here matches this property." The cop said, "But the caller says you're occupying without authorization. Do you have proof of ownership?" "On my phone. I can show you the deed, the closing documents, everything." Slowly. Marcus pulled out his phone, unlocked it, opened his files. The deed, the title insurance, the mortgage statement, with his name typed in black and white. The officer studied each document, comparing addresses, checking dates. The younger cop stood back, hand still near his weapon, like Marcus might suddenly transform into a threat. Finally, the older officer handed the phone back. "These look legitimate." Deborah stepped forward. "Officer, I've been managing this property for months. Our records clearly state, ma'am." The cop's voice carried a warning. "These are county-certified documents. If you have a dispute with the HOA about property records, that's a civil matter. This man isn't trespassing." Her face flushed crimson. "I was just doing my job." "Your job?" Marcus's voice stayed level, but anger burned beneath. "You didn't ask for my name. You didn't ask to see paperwork. You took 1 look at me and decided I didn't belong here. Then you called 4 cops with guns." The silence that followed was sharp enough to draw blood. The officers exchanged glances. The older one cleared his throat. "Mr. Chen, sorry for the inconvenience. You're free to go about your day." "Inconvenience!" Marcus repeated the word like it was coated in poison. "That's what you're calling this?" But they were already heading back to their cars. The show was over. Time to move on. The neighbors dispersed slowly, glancing back like they'd just witnessed something they'd later claim not to remember. Deborah stood frozen on his driveway, clipboard limp at her side. "This isn't over," she said quietly. Then she turned and walked away, heels clicking against asphalt like countdown timers. Marcus watched her go, his hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. Inside, he could hear Zoe crying. The sound shredded him. He'd bought this house to give her stability, peace. A place where she could just be a kid without worrying about eviction notices or landlords who raised rent every year. Instead, he'd brought her to a war zone where the enemy looked like a PTA mom with good highlights and a pleasant smile. He picked up the paint roller. The white paint had dried crusty on the bristles. Ruined seemed about right. That evening, after Zoe finally fell asleep, nightlight on, door cracked. His old college hoodie wrapped around her like armor. Marcus sat at his desk staring at the email that had arrived an hour ago. "Some concerns have been raised internally about your current situation. I'm sure you understand. We'll still honor the kill fee for preliminary work. Best of luck." David Marcus read it 3 times, each pass making his jaw clench tighter. Current situation. The euphemism was almost impressive. Professional. Bloodless. A way to drop a $40,000 contract without ever saying the actual words. "We heard you might be trouble. We don't want that kind of publicity." He'd worked with Vertex for 2 years. 3 successful campaigns. Glowing references. None of that mattered now. His phone buzzed. "Unknown number. You don't belong here. Leave while you still can." Marcus stared at the message, his reflection ghostly in the dark screen. He thought about responding, about blocking the number, about driving to Deborah's house and demanding she leave him alone. Instead, he deleted it and added the screenshot to a folder labeled Evidence. Because this was just beginning. His phone rang. No number this time. He answered. "Marcus Chen, you better have a damn good reason for calling me at 11:47 on a Wednesday night. Jamal Watts, college roommate, best man at his wedding, the friend who'd helped him pack when his marriage fell apart and never once asked why. They called the cops on me," Marcus said, "4 of them, in front of my daughter, for moving into my own house." The line went quiet. Then, "Start from the beginning." Marcus told him everything. Deborah's ambush. The flyers he'd found on his mailbox that afternoon. Neighborhood watch alert. Unverified occupancy. Reported at 2,847 Laurel Canyon, laminated and professionally printed like wanted posters. The threatening text, the lost contract that would have paid his mortgage for 3 months. When he finished, Jamal was silent for a long moment. "How long have you been there?" 1 week. Jesus! Jamal exhaled hard. "Okay, listen to me carefully. This is textbook housing discrimination. Selective enforcement, racial profiling disguised as HOA protocol, economic intimidation. We can hit them so hard they'll feel it for years. But Marcus, you need to understand what you're signing up for." "I'm listening." "They're going to try to break you. More fines, more violations. They'll turn your neighbors against you, make you the villain, drag your name through every community forum. They'll make you wish you'd never heard of Sunset Ridge." Marcus looked around his home office, boxes still unpacked, Zoe's artwork magnetized to a file cabinet. The mortgage statement on his desk with numbers that made his stomach turn. "I already fought to buy this place," he said. "Outbid 3 other families, saved for 7 years. I'm not walking away." "Then we fight." Jamal's voice shifted into courtroom mode. "Here's what happens next. You document everything, every interaction, every email, every sideways look. I'll draft a cease and desist letter tonight, send it certified mail tomorrow. We file a preliminary complaint with HUD. And Marcus, do not engage with her. No matter what she does, you stay calm. Let the law do the fighting. What if that's not enough? Then we sue. Federal discrimination claim, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation. We make it so expensive for them to continue this that they have no choice but to back down. After they hung up, Marcus created a new folder on his computer, Evidence. He uploaded photos of the flyers, screenshots of the threatening text, the video his doorbell camera had captured of Deborah photographing his car at 2 a.m. the night before. Then he did something that surprised himself. He opened WordPress and created a blog. Not to shame anyone, not to go viral, just to document. To create a record that couldn't be erased or rewritten or explained away. The first post was simple. Day 7. Someone called the police on me for living in my own house. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm a graphic designer and a single father. 7 days ago, I moved into my first home in Austin, Texas. This morning, a stranger demanded I leave or face arrest. 4 police officers showed up. My 12-year-old daughter watched it happen. This is my story, documented in real time, because I refuse to be erased. He included no names, no specific locations, just facts. He hit publish and closed the laptop. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin. But tonight, he checked on Zoe one more time, still asleep, face peaceful in the nightlight's glow, and made himself a promise. He would not let them make her afraid of home. The HOA's response arrived via certified mail 3 days later. Saturday morning, Marcus signed for the thick envelope, already knowing what was inside. Notice of violation and demand for immediate compliance property address, 2847 Laurel Canyon Drive owner of record. Marcus Chen status, unverified pending HOA review. The Sunset Ridge Homeowners Association Board has identified the following violations of community bylaws. 1. Unauthorized exterior modifications, Section 7.3, front door painted without Architectural Review Committee approval. Fine, $250. 2. Unapproved security device installation, Section 11.2, video doorbell camera installed without HOA notification. Fine, $250. 3. Failure to submit occupancy verification within 7 days of residency, Section 3.1, new occupant has not completed required verification process. Fine, $500 total. Due, $1,000, plus $250 per day for each continued violation. Failure to comply within 72 hours may result in additional legal action, including but not limited to property liens and potential foreclosure proceedings through the HOA's legal remedies. For questions, contact Deborah Mitchell, Compliance Officer, at Marcus read it twice, his hands tightening on the paper until it crumpled. They were trying to fine him into bankruptcy. For painting a door that was peeling when he bought the place. For installing a security camera after Deborah had been trespassing on his property. For not completing a verification process no one had ever mentioned. He photographed the document from every angle, then forwarded it to Jamal with a single line. They're escalating. The response came within 5 minutes. Do not pay. This is retaliatory enforcement after you refuse to back down. Classic intimidation tactic. Let me handle it. P.S. They just gave us a smoking gun for the discrimination case. Marcus wanted to feel relieved. Instead, he felt trapped. Because the notice wasn't the only thing that arrived that morning. There was also an email from the parent coordinator at Zoe's new school. Mr. Chen, some concerns have been raised about your family's living situation. For Zoe's safety and well-being, we'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss. And a text from his landlord at his old apartment. Hey Marcus. Got a weird call asking about your rental history. Wanted to give you a heads up. Hope everything's okay. And a voicemail from his bank. This is Emily from First National regarding your mortgage account. We've received a notification of a potential lien filing. Please call us back immediately at... They weren't just coming for him. They were coming for everything. His phone rang. Jamal. Marcus, I need you to listen very carefully. They've filed a fraudulent lien against your property. It's not legal, it won't hold up, but it's going to freeze your mortgage account temporarily while the bank investigates. Can they do that? No, but by the time we prove it's fraudulent, you'll have missed a mortgage payment, which gives them ammo to claim you're financially unstable. It's a scorched earth strategy. Marcus sat down hard, the room tilting. How do I stop it? You don't. I do. I'm filing an emergency motion Monday morning to have the lien removed and to establish a restraining order against further harassment. But Marcus, this is going to get public. The court filings will be public record. The HOA will hire a lawyer. This turns into a full legal battle. What's my alternative? Sell the house, take the loss, move somewhere easier. Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about Zoe's face when she'd first seen her room, the window seat where she curled up to read, the backyard where they'd already measured for the trampoline she'd been begging for since she was 8. No, he said, we fight. Then buckle up, because it's about to get brutal. That afternoon, Marcus did something he'd been avoiding. He went for a walk through his neighborhood, not to hide, not to skulk, just to exist in the space he'd bought and paid for. The October air was crisp, leaves turning burnt orange and gold. Kids played basketball in driveways. Someone was grilling, smoke drifting, sweet and savory. It looked like every suburban Saturday in America. But as Marcus walked, he felt eyes tracking him. Curtains moved. Conversation stopped. A woman pushing a stroller crossed the street when she saw him coming. He kept walking. At the corner park just 2 blocks from his house, a handful of parents watched their kids on the playground. Marcus recognized one of them, the young dad who'd offered to help carry furniture on moving day. Their eyes met. The man looked away. Marcus started toward him anyway. "Hey," Marcus said. "I'm Marcus. We met last week?" The man glanced at his friends, uncomfortable. "Yeah." "Hi. I just wanted to say thanks again for the offer to help. We got everything moved in okay." "That's good." Silence, painful and pointed. One of the other parents, a woman in yoga gear, finally spoke up. "Look, we heard there's been some confusion about your situation with the HOA." "No confusion," Marcus said evenly. "I own my house. Deborah Mitchell decided I didn't and called the police. That's not confusion, that's harassment." The young dad shifted weight. "I mean, she's just doing her job, right? Making sure everything's legitimate? By calling 4 cops before asking my name?" No one had an answer for that. Marcus looked at each of them in turn. "I have a 12-year-old daughter. She watched police officers surround our house because a stranger decided we didn't belong. So I'm asking you as neighbors, is that okay with you?" More silence. Then one of the kids called for a push on the swing, and the parents scattered like they'd been given permission to flee. Marcus walked home alone. Sunday brought a knock at his door. Marcus opened it to find Harold and Maureen from down the street, holding a casserole dish and looking like they'd come to deliver bad news. "We need to talk to you," Maureen said. "May we come in?" Marcus stepped aside. They sat in his living room, the casserole cooling on the coffee table, neither of them touching it. "We owe you an apology," Harold started. "You didn't do anything." "Exactly," Maureen's voice cracked. "We didn't do anything. And that's the problem." Harold leaned forward, hands clasped. "Deborah has done this before. 2 years ago, a family named Rodriguez moved in 3 houses down. Deborah questioned whether they were really the owners, called code enforcement about their fence, made complaints about their kids being too loud. It went on for months. They couldn't take it. They sold at a loss and left." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. "And nobody stopped her?" "We told ourselves it wasn't our business," Maureen whispered. "That maybe there was something we didn't know, that the HOA probably had good reasons. But we knew. We knew what she was doing, and we were too afraid of making waves to say anything." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because we've been watching what she's doing to you," Harold said. "And we can't stay silent again. There's a board meeting Tuesday night. A bunch of us are going. We're bringing our own complaints about Deborah, about how she's operated, about the pattern we've all watched but pretended not to see." Maureen reached out, stopped just short of touching Marcus's hand. "We can't undo what we didn't do 2 years ago, but we can show up for you now. You won't be alone in that room." Marcus wanted to believe them, but trust felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. "What changed?" he asked. "Why now?" Harold looked down at his hands. My daughter married a Chinese man. They're expecting their first baby next month, and I keep thinking about what kind of grandfather I want to be. What kind of neighborhood I want them to visit." He looked up, eyes wet. "I don't want to be the person who stayed quiet." Something in Marcus's chest loosened slightly. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of something. "The meeting's at 7, Maureen said. "We'll save you a seat." After they left, Marcus stood at his front window watching them walk back down the street. Across the way, Deborah's house sat dark and silent behind closed curtains. He thought about the Rodriguez family, about how they'd fought and lost and left, about how Deborah had learned that persistence wins, that if you make someone's life hell long enough, they'll leave rather than keep fighting. He thought about Zoe upstairs, doing homework, trying to pretend everything was normal, and he made a decision. He wasn't leaving, but he also wasn't waiting anymore. He pulled out his phone and opened the blog. Second post. Day 10. "The HOA is trying to foreclose on my house. They've filed a fraudulent lien. Sent threatening notices demanding $1,000 for violations that don't exist. Contacted my daughter's school to raise concerns about our living situation." This isn't about bylaws or protocol. This is about power. And it's not going to work. Because I'm not the first family they've done this to. But I'm going to make sure I'm the last. He hit publish and watched as the post went live. Within an hour, the first comments arrived. Some supportive, some calling him paranoid, some sharing their own stories of HOA nightmares. But one comment made him sit up straight. "I'm an investigative reporter with the Austin Chronicle. This sounds like a story we'd be interested in. Would you be willing to talk?" Marcus stared at the screen for a long time. Going public meant exposing everything. His life, his daughter, his fight. Making himself a target for anyone who thought he was playing the victim or making trouble where there was none. But it also meant telling the truth, creating a record, making it harder for them to erase him. He clicked reply. "Yes, let's talk." Monday morning, Jamal filed the emergency motion. By noon, Marcus received a call from his mortgage lender. "Mr. Chen, this is Robert Caldwell from First National. We need to discuss your account." Marcus's stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "We've received documentation indicating a lien has been placed on your property. Until we can verify its legitimacy, we're required to freeze disbursements and place your account under review. This also means," the words blurred together, "account freeze. Credit impact, potential acceleration of loan. Basically, they could call his entire mortgage due immediately if they decided he was too risky." "How long will the review take?" "Typically 4 to 6 weeks. I don't have 6 weeks. I have bills, a daughter, a life." "I understand, sir, but our hands are tied." Until Marcus hung up, his hand shook as he dialed Jamal. "They froze my mortgage." "I know. I'm handling it." "Emergency hearing is set for Thursday. We'll get it unfrozen, and if we don't," silence, "then we will." But Jamal's confidence couldn't stop the avalanche that followed. By afternoon, the story had leaked, not the version Marcus wanted, but a twisted one that made him sound paranoid and litigious. New homeowners' discrimination claims against Sunset Ridge HOA sparked debate by Tyler Hendricks. Local Voices, a recent transplant to the upscale Sunset Ridge neighborhood, is making waves with accusations of discrimination after moving in 3 weeks ago. Marcus Chen, a self-employed designer, claims HOA compliance officer Deborah Mitchell has unfairly targeted him. However, HOA board president Greg Heller tells a different story. "We have strict protocols to ensure the safety and property values of our community," Heller stated. "Mr. Chen has refused to comply with basic verification procedures that every resident completes. When we attempted to address these concerns, he immediately played the discrimination card." Mitchell reached for comment, expressed hurt and confusion. "I've dedicated 15 years to this community. I treat every resident the same. It's unfortunate that following the rules is now somehow considered racist." The situation highlights ongoing tensions in Austin's rapidly changing suburban landscape, where newcomers and longtime residents often clash over neighborhood character and community standards. Marcus read it 3 times, each pass making him feel more like he was drowning. They'd flipped the narrative, made him the aggressor, made Deborah the victim. His phone exploded. Former clients requesting he remove their testimonials from his website didn't want to be associated with controversy. Neighbors leaving voicemails that ranged from supportive to venomous. Stop making trouble. You're embarrassing the whole neighborhood. Some of us actually care about property values. A message from Zoe's school counselor. We should schedule a meeting to discuss how recent events might be affecting Zoe's emotional well-being and academic performance. And worst of all, an email from his ex-wife, who he hadn't heard from in 2 years. Marcus, I saw the news. If this situation is creating an unsafe environment for Zoe, we need to discuss custody arrangements. I can't have her in the middle of whatever you've gotten yourself into. Call me. That one made his vision blur. By 3 p.m., Marcus had lost another $75,000 in projected income, 3 major clients pulling contracts, all citing concerns about ongoing litigation and wanting to avoid negative publicity. By 5 p.m., his savings account showed $3,247, less than 1 mortgage payment. By 7 p.m., he was sitting in his car in the Walmart parking lot, unable to go home, unable to face Zoe, unable to pretend everything would be okay. His phone rang. Mom. Marcus, baby, I saw the article. Are you okay? He almost lied. Almost said, fine, Mom, all under control. But the dam broke. No. His voice cracked. I'm not okay. They're destroying me. I'm going to lose the house. I might lose Zoe. I've lost my business, and everyone thinks I'm the problem. That I'm making this up for attention or playing victim or stop, her voice cut through his spiral. Listen to me. This is what they do. They twist the story until you question your own reality, until you believe maybe you are the problem. But Marcus, you know what you experienced. You know what's true. Don't let them gaslight you into giving up. Mom, I don't know if I can do this. Yes, you can, because you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for Zoe, for the Rodriguez family, for every family that comes after. Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about getting up after you break. After they hung up, Marcus sat in that parking lot for another hour, watching people go about their ordinary lives. Buying groceries, loading cars, laughing with their kids. Simple, normal, everything he'd wanted. Finally, he drove home. Zoe was in her room, door closed, music playing too loud. He knocked, waited, knocked again. What? Can I come in? Silence. Then, it's your house. He opened the door. She was on her bed, knees pulled up, sketchbook open but empty. Her eyes were red. You okay? Why does everyone keep asking me that? She wouldn't look at him. I'm fine. Zoe, I said I'm fine. Her voice cracked, the anger barely masking pain. I'm fine that we had to move again. Fine that everyone at school is talking about us. Fine that Mom texted me saying maybe I should come stay with her because it's safer. Fine that you're on the news and people are calling you a liar. I'm totally, completely fine, Dad. The sarcasm shattered into tears. Marcus sat beside her and she collapsed against him, sobbing in a way he hadn't heard since the divorce. I just want to be normal, she choked out. I just want a home that stays home. He held her, his own eyes burning. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. I should have protected you. You can't protect me from everything. Her voice was small, muffled against his shirt. But you can stop pretending it doesn't hurt. They sat like that for a long time, the music playing, the afternoon light fading into evening. Finally, she pulled back, wiping her eyes. Dad, are we going to lose the house? He wanted to lie, wanted to promise everything would be fine, but she deserved the truth. I don't know, he admitted. It's bad, really bad. Part of me thinks maybe we should just walk away, find somewhere easier. Somewhere no one knows us. She looked at him with those eyes that were too old, too knowing for 12. Is that what you want? I want you to be happy. I want you to be happy too. She grabbed his hand. You saved for 7 years for this house. You beat 3 other families. You told me this was our forever home. Was that a lie? No. Then we stay. Her jaw set with stubborn determination that was pure her. We stay and we fight, and we don't let them win. Because if we leave, they'll just do it to someone else, right? Marcus stared at his daughter, his brave, fierce, impossibly strong daughter, and felt something shift inside him. She was right. If he left now, Deborah won. The HOA won. And the next family who didn't look right would face the same hell. Okay, he said. We stay. Promise? I promise. She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her sketchbook. But now, she was drawing quick, angry lines that formed into a house with a girl and her dad standing in front, roots growing from their feet into the ground, anchored, unmovable. Marcus went to his office, pulled up his computer, and opened his blog. Day 17. They're trying to break me. My mortgage is frozen. My clients are gone. My ex-wife is threatening custody. The local news has painted me as a troublemaker who refuses to follow the rules. And you know what? I almost believed it. Almost convinced myself that maybe if I'd just been quieter, more compliant, more grateful for the privilege of buying a house in their neighborhood, none of this would have happened. But my daughter reminded me of something tonight. If we leave, they'll just do this to the next family, and the next, and the next. So we're staying. Not because it's easy, because it's right. He hit publish. Within minutes, comments started rolling in. Stay strong. Document everything. Don't let them gaslight you. This happened to my family in Phoenix. We left. I regret it every day. Fight. I'm a civil rights attorney in Dallas. If you need additional legal support, reach out. And then one comment that made his throat tight. I'm Mrs. Rodriguez, your neighbor from 2 years ago. We left because we couldn't take it. Because no one would help. Watching you fight makes me wish we'd been braver. Don't stop, please. Marcus saved the comment and sent it to Jamal with a simple message. Evidence of pattern. Add it to the file. Then he did something he should have done from the beginning. He stopped fighting alone. Tuesday morning, Marcus woke to find 37 emails in his inbox. Half were hate mail. Half were offers of support from neighbors he hadn't met, from families across Austin who'd faced similar battles, from organizations that worked on housing discrimination cases. One email stood out, from Rachel.Martinez at austinchronicle.com. Subject, follow-up investigation. Mr. Chen, I'm the reporter who wrote the original story about your situation. After seeing Tyler Hendricks' piece in Local Voices, I did some digging. I think there's a bigger story here, not just about your case, but about systematic patterns in HOA enforcement across Austin. Would you be willing to talk? Off the record initially. I want to get this right. Marcus called Jamal first. Talk to her, Jamal said immediately. But I sit in on the interview, and we review anything before it goes to print. Rachel met them at a coffee shop Tuesday afternoon. She was younger than Marcus expected, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and a recorder that she set on the table between them. Thanks for meeting me, she said. I'll be honest, when I first heard about your case, I thought it might be a standard HOA dispute. But then I started looking into Deborah Mitchell's history. She pulled out a folder thick with printouts. She's been compliance officer for 15 years. In that time, at least 7 families have sold and left within a year of moving in, all of them non-white, all of them citing harassment. But none of them ever filed official complaints, because by the time they'd had enough, they just wanted out. She spread photos across the table. Faces, families, stories. The Rodriguez family, the Barnes family, the Patels, the Chens, different Chens, no relation. Every one of them went through the same pattern. Questioned paperwork, called code enforcement, escalating fines, police calls. And every time the HOA backed her because she was just following procedure. Marcus felt sick. How did no one stop her? Because she was smart, never explicitly said anything racist, always hid behind bylaws and protocol, and the families she targeted, they didn't have the resources to fight back. They couldn't afford lawyers or the time off work for court battles. They just left. Rachel looked at Marcus directly. You're the first one who's fighting back publicly, and that makes you dangerous to her, which is why she's escalating so hard. What do you need from me? Everything. Documentation. Timeline. I want to write the real story, but I need you to understand, this will make things worse before they get better. She'll come at you harder. The HOA will lawyer up. You'll be under a microscope. Marcus looked at Jamal, who nodded slowly. Do it, Marcus said. Tell the truth. Rachel's investigation piece ran Thursday morning, the same day as Marcus's emergency hearing. Pattern of harassment. Sunset Ridge, HOA's History of Driving Out Minority Families by Rachel Martinez. Austin Chronicle. An investigation by the Chronicle has uncovered a troubling pattern of conduct by Sunset Ridge HOA compliance officer Deborah Mitchell spanning over a decade. Records show at least 7 families, all non-white, have sold their homes and left the subdivision within a year of moving in, citing systematic harassment. Marcus Chen, whose recent conflict with the HOA sparked this investigation, is not an isolated case, but the latest in a long line of families targeted through selective enforcement of community bylaws. The article included interviews with the Rodriguez family, documentation of previous complaints that had been dismissed, and expert testimony from housing discrimination attorneys explaining how HOA rules could be weaponized. It went viral by noon. By the time Marcus arrived at the courthouse for his hearing, reporters were waiting outside. Mr. Chen, do you believe this is racially motivated? What do you say to people who claim you're playing the victim? Have you considered settling with the HOA? Jamal guided him through the crowd. No comment, no comment, no comment. Inside, Judge Patricia Vasquez looked over the case file with increasing incredulity. Let me make sure I understand, she said to the HOA's lawyer, a nervous man named Kent Simmons. Your client filed a lien on Mr. Chen's property claiming he owed homeowners fees, but Mr. Chen has documentation showing he's paid every fee in full and on time? Your Honor, the lien was filed based on preliminary information that has since been, so it was fraudulent. That's a strong word. What's the correct word for filing a lien, you know, to be false? Mr. Simmons? Simmons looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. Perhaps premature would be more accurate. No, fraudulent is accurate. Judge Vasquez turned to Jamal. Motion to remove lien is granted. Additionally, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order preventing the HOA from filing any further liens or violations against Mr. Chen's property pending resolution of his discrimination complaint. If I see this case on my docket again, someone is going to be facing sanctions. Am I clear? Yes, Your Honor, both lawyers said in unison. Outside the courthouse, Jamal was grinning. That went about as well as it could have gone. The lien is gone? Gone! Your mortgage will be unfrozen by end of business today. And that restraining order? That means they can't touch you until HUD completes their investigation. Marcus felt lightheaded. So it's over? The immediate crisis? Yes. The bigger fight? Just getting started. But Marcus, you just survived their best shot. Everything from here is cleanup. That night, Marcus got a phone call from an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Chen? A woman's voice, tentative. My name is Maria Rodriguez. You quoted me on your blog. Marcus sat up straight. Mrs. Rodriguez? Thank you for reaching out. I wanted to say, watching you fight, reading about what you're going through, it made me realize we should have fought too. We let her win because it seemed easier, but it wasn't easier. We lost our home, we lost our community, and she just moved on to the next family. Her voice broke. Please don't stop. Not just for you, but for all of us. I won't. Marcus promised. "I won't stop." After they hung up, he sat in the quiet of his office, looking at the photo of him and Zoe at the beach, the only frame still on his desk. He'd almost given up. Almost convinced himself that walking away was the smart choice, the safe choice, the reasonable choice. But there was nothing reasonable about what Deborah had done. Nothing safe about a system that protected her and punished her victims. And Marcus was done being reasonable. Tuesday night came with those same storm clouds, still refusing to break. This time, when Marcus walked into the community center, he wasn't alone. Jamal was on his left, Rachel Martinez on his right, camera crew in tow. Behind him, Harold and Maureen. The Rodriguez family, who'd driven 3 hours to be there. Keisha Barnes and her husband. 24 other residents who'd signed a petition demanding Deborah's removal. And in the back, watching with sharp legal eyes, representatives from 2 civil rights organizations and the local HUD office. The board table looked like a funeral procession. And the fight Marcus Chen had started 3 weeks ago was about to end. The meeting room was standing room only. Every seat filled. People lined the walls. It looked less like an HOA meeting and more like a trial. At the front table sat 5 board members. Greg Heller, the president, and 4 others Marcus didn't recognize. Deborah sat to the side, arms crossed, her expression carved from stone. Harold and Maureen had saved seats near the front. As Marcus sat, he caught sight of other faces in the crowd. Keisha Barnes, the black woman he'd seen at the park. The teenager who'd watched the police show up. The elderly man who lived on the corner, and reporters, at least 3, cameras ready, notepads out. Greg Heller called the meeting to order. His voice was tight, professional, like he was reading from a script. Before we begin standard business, we need to address an issue that has attracted significant public attention. Several complaints have been filed regarding HOA conduct and specifically the actions of our compliance officer, Deborah Mitchell. He glanced at Marcus. "Mr. Chen, you have the floor." Marcus stood. The room went silent. For a moment, he couldn't speak. His mouth was dry, his heart hammered. Every eye in the room was on him, judging, measuring, deciding if he was telling the truth or playing victim. Then he thought about Zoe's face when the police cars arrived, about his mother's words, about the Rodriguez family who'd given up because no one stood with them, and he found his voice. 3 weeks ago, I moved into my house on Laurel Canyon Drive. I'd saved for 7 years to buy it. Outbid 3 other families. Signed every paper. Did everything right. He paused, meeting Deborah's eyes. But apparently, I didn't look right. The room stirred. Deborah Mitchell approached me on my own property and demanded I leave. She didn't ask my name, didn't ask to see documentation. She just looked at me and decided I was a criminal. Then she called 4 police officers in front of my 12-year-old daughter. His voice stayed steady, but anger burned beneath. When that didn't work, she distributed flyers, calling me a threat, filed a fraudulent lien on my property, contacted my daughter's school to raise concerns, cost me clients, cost me income, made my family afraid in our own home. He pulled out a folder, held it up. I have documentation of everything, police reports, threatening messages. The flyers she printed. But you know what I don't have? An explanation for why she targeted me specifically. Why the Rodriguez family 2 years ago. Why Keisha Barnes 3 years ago. Why every family that doesn't look like her gets put through hell while others move in without a single question. Deborah stood. "Mr. Chen, I was following protocol." Bullshit. The word landed like a gunshot. "You want to talk protocol?" Marcus's voice rose. "Show me the protocol that says, call the cops first, ask questions never. Show me the protocol that says, file fake liens. Show me the protocol that weaponizes HOA bylaws against specific families based on how they look." Jamal stood beside him. "I'm Jamal Watts, Mr. Chen's attorney. We've filed a formal complaint with the Department of Housing and Urban Development alleging Fair Housing Act violations. We're prepared to pursue federal civil rights litigation, but we're offering this board one opportunity to address this internally. Greg's face had gone pale. Mr. Watts, I assure you, your assurances mean nothing. Jamal's voice could cut glass. Deborah Mitchell has used her position to conduct what amounts to a campaign of ethnic cleansing through bureaucratic harassment. She's done it before. She'll do it again unless you act. Right now. Tonight. Harold stood from his seat. I'd like to say something. Greg hesitated, clearly wanting to shut this down, but too many people were watching, recording. He nodded. My name is Harold Chen, no relation to Marcus. A ripple of uncomfortable laughter. I've lived in Sunset Ridge for 18 years, and I watched Deborah Mitchell drive out the Rodriguez family 2 years ago. I watched her question their papers, call code enforcement, file complaint after complaint until they couldn't take it anymore. And I said nothing. His voice shook but held. I told myself it wasn't my business, that maybe there was something I didn't know, but I did know. We all knew. We just didn't want to admit what we were watching. One by one, others stood. She questioned whether I really owned my house, implied I must be renting through Section 8, called me a liar when I showed her my deed. The elderly man from the corner. She tried to find my wife's wheelchair ramp as an unapproved modification. My wife is 83 years old. The teenager. I watched 4 cops show up at his house, and it made me sick, because we all knew it was wrong, and nobody did anything. By the time they finished, Deborah's face was chalk white. Her hands trembled where they gripped the table. Greg looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. The board will take this under advisement and issue a decision within no. Jamal's voice was absolute. You'll take action tonight, or we file federal lawsuit papers in the morning. Every board member named. Every penny of HOA insurance coverage on the line. Every member of this association potentially liable. Your choice. The board members whispered urgently among themselves. Vanessa Torres, the board's legal advisor, looked like she'd swallowed glass. Finally, Greg spoke. Effective immediately, Deborah Mitchell is removed from her position as compliance officer. All fines and violations against Mr. Chen are rescinded. A full independent investigation will be conducted. And, he swallowed hard, we apologize. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough, but it was something. Deborah stood abruptly, her chair scraping like nails on a chalkboard. You can't do this. I was protecting this neighborhood from... From what? Marcus's voice cut through her protest. From me? From my daughter? From families who don't look like you? He stepped closer, and she actually flinched. You can dress it up in bylaws and protocol and community standards all you want, but everyone in this room knows what this really is. You just never thought anyone would call you on it. Deborah had no answer. For the first time in her life, probably, she had nothing to say. The meeting broke apart in chaos. Reporters rushed forward with questions. Neighbors approached Marcus, some to apologize, some to shake his hand, some unable to meet his eyes. Jamal pulled him aside. You did good. Really good. Why doesn't it feel like winning? Because you had to fight for something that should have been yours from the beginning. Jamal squeezed his shoulder. But you won. Remember that. Outside, the storm finally broke. Rain hammered the pavement like applause. Marcus stood under the awning, watching Deborah hurry to her car, her shoulders hunched, her head down, looking small for the first time. He didn't feel triumph, didn't feel satisfaction. He just felt tired. Jamal appeared beside him with an umbrella. Come on, let's get you home. The drive back was silent. Rain drummed against the windshield. The wipers beat a steady rhythm. When Marcus pulled into his driveway, every light in his house was on. Zoe stood at the living room window, watching. He got out of the car, rain soaking through his jacket immediately. She ran out to meet him. No umbrella, no jacket, just his daughter throwing her arms around him in the middle of a storm. Did you win? He held her tight. Yeah, kiddo, we won. Can we stay? Forever. She pulled back, searching his face. Rain streaked her cheeks, or maybe tears, he couldn't tell. You promise? Marcus looked past her at the house. Their house. Fresh paint on the door. Warm light spilling from the windows. The home they'd almost lost before they'd even had a chance to live in it. I promise. They stood in the rain together, water soaking through their clothes, and for the first time in 3 weeks, Marcus felt like he could breathe. Inside, the house was warm. Safe. Theirs. And no one could take that away. 3 months later, Marcus stood on his back porch watching Zoe bounce on her Christmas trampoline, January sun cutting through cold air. Deborah had moved in November, quietly, no drama. Just gone one day, the house empty and dark until a young interracial couple bought it in December. The neighborhood had welcomed them with casseroles and smiles. No questions, no demands. The HOA had new leadership, new bylaws explicitly barring discrimination, a new culture built on the wreckage of the old. And Marcus? His business had recovered. The publicity had brought clients who specifically wanted to work with him, who believed in supporting people who stood up for what was right. But the biggest change was internal. He'd spent his whole life making himself smaller, smoother, easier to accept. The fight with Deborah had forced him to take up space, to stop apologizing for existing, and once he'd done it here, he couldn't stop doing it everywhere else. His phone buzzed. Text from Jamal. Saw the new HOA bylaws got adopted. You built something, man. Marcus smiled. Built something. Not just one. Built. A foundation that other families would walk on without knowing his name, without realizing the cost. Dad, Zoe called from the trampoline. Watch this. She launched into a flip. Clumsy, fearless, perfect. He watched her fly, silhouetted against winter sky, and thought about what he'd tell her someday when she was old enough to understand. That home isn't just a place you buy, it's a space you defend. That dignity doesn't require permission. That sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is simply refuse to leave. The doorbell rang. Marcus went inside, opened it to find a delivery driver holding a package. Marcus Chen? That's me. Sign here. He signed, took the package, watched the driver leave. A small thing, ordinary, but proof. This was real. He was home, and no one could take that away. He closed the door and looked around at what they'd built. Not just a house, but a life. Not just ownership, but belonging. The January light poured through the windows, golden and warm. Outside, Zoe's laughter echoed off the winter air. And Marcus Chen, standing in the foyer of 2847 Laurel Canyon Drive, finally let himself believe it. They'd won. Not just the fight, but the right to exist, without permission, without proof, without fear. Home.